People say I'm thirsty, but I'm actually pretty dehydrated. Hi, start with a silhouette. I always start with a silhouette because there's nothing scarier than sketching directly on a blank white void. But seriously, this helps establish the basic shape and pose for your character. In character design, silhouettes are used to test if the character is recognizable without the details. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of you can recognize at least 80% of these characters just by their silhouettes. It can also tell the personality of the character. For example, Mickey Mouse is cheerful, and I'm pretty sure this is Daffy Duck. Yeah, he's sassy. You don't have to draw a neat silhouette or anything. As long as you can see the basic shape and pose, you're golden. Of course, I don't just pull the silhouette out of thin air. I use references. This is the reference I use for the pose because holy jelly beans, I would be insane not to use it. I know that in the past, I used to say things like, pick a reference with good lighting and good shadows, things like that. And I still stand by it, don't get me wrong. But lately, I've been using references just because I like it. But here's the thing, because I've been collecting references with clear lighting for years, I now unconsciously choose references that have clear lighting. I mean, sure, 90% of them are thirst traps, but still. So try to make this into a habit. Train your eyes and brain to recognize pictures with good lighting. And I don't know if it's just me, but if I find a reference that instantly inspires me, I have to use it right away, because the drawing always turns out well. I don't know if this is a superstition or if I just read too much into it, but yeah, these things happen. Anyway, I normally use blue for both the silhouette and the rough sketch. No specific reason, it's just easier on my eyes. Because this is just a rough sketch, I recommend turning off that stabilizer so you can move freely. Personally, I like using pencil graphite to sketch, but you can use whatever brush you like. Since the pose is not too complicated, I will immediately sketch the body and the accessories. Now, you do need anatomy knowledge. Yes, I know, boo anatomy. But to simplify shapes from a reference, you need at least basic anatomy knowledge, especially when there are bulging muscles involved. I can say bulging, right? Okay. There are a lot of sketching methods, such as the Loomis method for the head and using boxes and cylinders for the body. If this is too much for you to comprehend, which no shame by the way, it's too much for me to comprehend as well, you can trace the muscles and give it different colors and use it as a guide to sketch. After you're satisfied with the rough sketch, lower the opacity, and then use a new layer to draw the clean sketch. Fong, isn't that just line art? No, line art requires a super steady hand, limitless amount of patience, and countless amounts of undo. Clean sketch is more freeing. It's your friend. I'm using dark brown to differentiate from the blue rough sketch. And at this stage, don't worry about making neat lines. Just focus on drawing clearer and cleaner shapes. This will help a lot when adding base colors, as you can easily differentiate the parts. But more importantly, it will make the rendering process easier and less cluttered. Adding base colors is pretty much self-explanatory. It's just adding a bunch of colors. If your lines are neat enough, you can use the bucket tool to fill the colors instantly. Ibispaint has this feature called gap recognition, so you can use the bucket tool even if your sketch isn't very neat. Very cool of you, Ibispaint. Good one. In case you don't know who I'm drawing, you poor thing, he is one of the villain NPC in Genshin Impact. The name is Eremite Daythunder. Maybe they meant Daddy Thunder. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. I always start with the skin for base shading. I create a multiply layer above the skin layer and use the airbrush for soft shadows. But then I realized that I have a lot of things I have to shade. If I shade it one by one, it will take forever to finish, especially with a procrastinating monkey living rent-free in my brain. So I decided to just merge all the layers. I used to be scared of merging all my layers because what if I made a mistake? What if I changed my mind and it was too late? Duplicate button. Just use the freaking duplicate button. Or you can also put all your layers into one folder and then click add layer from folder to create a duplicate as a single layer. I always start shading with a darker shade of the skin tone and use it for everything. The beauty of the multiply layer is it darkens the colors naturally. However, there are some exceptions. For example, if the character has blue hair, it can look weird when shaded with the skin tone. Afterwards, I use flat watercolor opaque to add more solid and well-defined shadows. Because I have my lovely reference here with me, I can simply follow the shadows in the picture. Some people like to add a little sun or arrow in their canvas so they know where the light comes from. I used to do that, but I always forgot about it and drew the wrong shadows, so it's easier for me to just have the reference picture. By the way, this flat watercolor opaque brush, I'm all for it now. This brush is my whole life. I know people say brush doesn't matter, but screw that. This is such a beautiful brush. I'll tell you why in a minute. For rendering, I start with the face. I don't know why, but I always start rendering the nose first and then the mouth, and then I work on the eyes. I guess I like working from the middle, maybe. And I cannot stress this enough. Anatomy knowledge is very important. Reference pictures are not perfect. Some features can be unclear or blurry. You can use additional references, but learning anatomy is very important for stylizing human anatomy and developing your own style. You can even draw some features using imagination. When rendering, don't stay in one spot. Move around to different areas. When I was an art bebe, I used to overly focus on rendering the face, even if it was a small part of the illustration. This led to spending excessive time and effort on one detail, leaving me with no motivation to render the rest. Use a dark shadow color to paint over your sketch. Zoom out, and if it looks too dark, gradually lighten it with a lighter color. If your painting ends up blurry or loses definition, simply redraw the line art. Fung, isn't that just redundant? No. Actually, yes, it kinda is. But don't think too much into it, you know? There is no exact formula in art. It's not math or rocket science. It comes down to your own preference and art style. You want the painting to be well-defined? Add line art. If you don't like it, skip the line art. Simple as that. Wait, why do I keep saying line art? I mean clean sketch. Lately, I've been into this messy, painty style. I think it's more freeing and I can let loose, you know? And it all thanks to flat watercolor opaque. At this point, you might think I'm sponsored by Ibispaint, but I'm really not, although I'm very much open to the opportunity. Listen, I used to be very meticulous about my painting. Everything needs to be sharp and crisp, like I got something stuck on my behind. But because flat watercolor opaque has a watercolor texture with a rectangular tip, naturally my painting turns a little messy. And you know what? I like it. Messy painting is charming and imperfection is beautiful. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. And it gives a nice texture for the midtones as well. The texture looks nice, isn't it? You can control the amount of paint depending on the pen pressure. However, regardless of the brush, I always use low opacity to render, somewhere around 30 to 60% opacity. This gives you a chance to shade gradually instead of just blocks of harsh shadows. In the past, I normally skip lighting until the very end, and then create an add layer and then slap a huge I still skip the lighting until the very end, but now I add it gradually. For the skin, I picked a slightly lighter color and applied it with low opacity brush. If I want to add more, I just up the opacity. If it's still not enough, I pick an even lighter color. Now of course, this depends on the lighting and the mood you're going for. Some paintings need extreme lighting from the get-go for a dramatic effect. However, even if you're going for dramatic lighting, I don't recommend immediately using an add layer because it looks very unnatural. So I usually have a base lighting ready and then I will use the add layer to emphasize the lights. But honestly, I don't think this drawing needs such strong lighting, so I'm probably just gonna skip that. And there you have it, that's pretty much it. I could probably do more rendering in some parts, but you know what? The moral of this video is, don't think too much about it, which is rich coming from me. Thanks for listening to my yapping. Bye!